meeting, City Commission Workshop for Monday, August 22nd to order. And how about let you call the roll?
Commissioner Hertzberg?
Here.
Commissioner Honaker?
Here.
Commissioner Schleicher?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Excuse.
Commissioner Sukup?
Excuse.
Vice Mayor Honaker?
Here.
Mayor Sargent?
Here.
You feel lonely.
Okay.
Sometimes even by yourself, huh?
Pledge to the flag. You ain't got nobody to talk to. You're going to have to be good tonight.
I got one line.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Any public comments? Yes, ma'am. You want to state your name and address for the record? Well, you know the rules by now.
Brandy White, 2926 Trauma Street. I actually had a lot that different residents want me to go over, but I'm actually not going to do that at this time. Instead, I just wanted to say that I started getting involved in this and reaching out the first meeting about the trash. And I was advised to email everybody anytime there was a concern or comment. I just got to say, I've probably heard from about 3 of you, the multiple times that I emailed. My biggest concern I get to hear, besides one generic, well, I don't want to say generic, but it didn't address my concerns from my own commissioner. Out of all the times I've been here, I've expressed my concerns, I've asked for records. You know I have questions. The dialogue during meetings, I think I'm trying to figure that out. I think there's more dialogue at these meetings than down there. That's kind of been my thing. But one of the things the public keeps asking me is to stream it up here so that they can see it. Just a simple camera. I looked at the budget for the IT department. I mean, to stream it in here would be way more beneficial than the cost. Or move them downstairs where they're already. If they want to be involved, they can't get here at 5:30. I've had to take off work every one of these meetings. My boss isn't thrilled right now. But I've had to take off work because this was important to me. I am invested. I've been here over 18 years. I pay my property taxes every year. Maybe because I'm older now, it's actually made sense that I needed to be more involved. But it was something as simple as the trash that started that. And I was really disappointed in how hard it's been to get involved. And so that I have a lot of people saying the same thing. Is there going to be an easier way to get us more involved? I understand downstairs is strange, and that's great, but this is what they need to see, like you guys being yourselves and talking and the dialogue. At home, we see down there, we're just like, well, did they even discuss the other options? Because, for example, the 3%, and this is one of the things that I was going to bring up tonight. I am all for people getting raises. Trust me, from somebody who doesn't get enough of them. I'm for it, but earned. Not just given because it's an annual or given because that. And I looked at the pilot program and I saw that that was part of the basis, was it's not just an annual thing anymore. That's not conveyed in the way that it came across. That there is a merit-based thing. I have requested a few of those because just for my own curiosity of some things. But I also want to urge, I don't think the other options were looked at before approving that. I'm looking at just, and I know this is a little biased and wrong, the compensation study, but it's a good start with the 3% to look at it like that. There's a lot that we're only going to get the 3% because they're already past what they should be making. So to implement another 3%, I just want you to think in the long run how that's going to tumble going forward if you keep implementing these raises. Eventually they're going to max out, and I don't think they're going to be okay with going 5 years on a frozen salary. I mean, you got to think long term. And I know a lot of these things I bring to an email probably just get dismissed, but this is what I do and I'm good at it. Like, you don't have to pay me $25,000 to analyze these things. I'm doing it for free, and I don't feel like you guys are even hearing me. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right.
I did get a text from Larry Kent. He wanted you to know, all of us to know that he is probably not going to be here tonight because he's tied up with the situation on Deltona Boulevard.
There's
I-
a robbery on Deltona Boulevard.
And I told him we would try and get by without him.
Yeah, we'll struggle. We'll struggle. Okay, then,
Can I make a comment?
Me too.
we all agreed not to do that, but
Well, it's germane to her comment that I've said
That's
it before.
exactly the
I've said it
point.
before, now we're doing the CRAs up here too. Why can't we do them in the chambers where they're on television, where
We're
everyone
gonna,
can see?
we could change the CRAs to down there.
Or the workshops, but I mean, why can't we do workshops?
We could debate that, that's all why we're here.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
We did that when
We
I
just
first got on
tried
the
to-
commission, and you remember that, Mayor. We had workshops up here, and there was a commissioner or two or whatever that wanted it downstairs, and we moved it downstairs, and we did it downstairs. For, I don't remember the time frame. I don't know if it was a year, 6 months. The consensus was the commission, they decided, including the commissioner that wanted it downstairs, that it was more informal up here. That was the decision of the commission, because it was my push to go ahead and have it downstairs, because one commissioner was saying, and I said, let's do it, let's go ahead and do that. So you can look back and see.
We can't get, this is what we can't do right now.
But you know
But
what,
she needs to hear,
But
she needs
that's
to hear
only
your
fair
comment.
for her to hear that. I
Well,
don't-
no,
you know, I
no,
don't
I'm,
wanna be
well, she was gonna respond back.
It is.
Down there,
And they even tried to arrange the dais. They tried to
Exactly.
rearrange the dais and everything.
And I get
but-
that, which why the alternative would be to easily just run it and stream it in here. The cost would.
Again, Brandy, respectfully, we do not allow this to happen, because that's what happens, the
And can we
dialogue
agenda
starts.
this for a discussion somewhere along
We
the
could
time?
surely
Just to
talk
either
about it.
approve it or put it to bed.
We could talk about it at a later date if they want.
Let's either discuss it,
Agenda.
I don't know.
She does want to speak as well.
Hi, my name is Monica Casimir. I'm the business owner at 1342 Holland Boulevard. And I just wanted to find out, I'm trying to, it's a commercial property, and I want to have a residential unit inside the same building as a commercial property. I've talked with Mr. Paradise regarding this at the last DRC meeting that we had with him. And he said there wasn't an ordinance regarding that. And I wanted to find out how to go about starting that so it can happen sometime, maybe next year.
Wow, we've never had that asked before.
Purpose business.
You want to live, in other words, where you operate your business, on commercial land.
Yes.
I mean,
That already exists.
that's what I'm wondering, I thought you could
Already
do it.
exists at the mini
You talking
storage
about
warehouses.
Upstairs, the mini storehouses do it.
Yeah, that is a planned unit development rezoning. We agreed that we would do some research on this as a result of the DRC.
Okay.
And, we kind of came to the conclusion that, for this individual standalone use, perhaps the PUD tool was maybe overkill.
How
And
about your card? Could you give her a card so she
Yeah,
can?
she-
Oh, okay, that's who you want to deal with. Yeah,
But she's been
okay.
there.
All right, you guys are looking into
We
it?
are looking at that.
It's gonna, I could see a myriad of rules we'd have to look at to make it work, but it should be able to work. We should make it
Our
work.
place downtown Plan used.
Okay, yeah, similar.
Restaurant or-
Yeah, two-story sounds simple, but a
It's provided,
one-story.
it's provided for in the
Yeah.
building in the fire code. We just need to create the zoning that
Make
allows
sure
it.
it's,
Okay.
fits the rule regulations.
All right, we're on it, or staff's on it. I don't see a problem with it, didn't see anybody negative. All right, we'll move on then to discussion on impact fee ordinance. Becky, I guess you brought, or who brought this forward? I did. You did, all right?
This is Chris.
I have a little PowerPoint presentation. I'll just keep it brief though.
A little.
Choo-choo. Keith, because you have a lot on your agenda tonight. Just wanted to bring this forward. Over the years in Deltona, there's been several studies done, the last of which was 2007 prior to 2015. So there was a gap. And in 2015, we engaged Burton and Associates, who's done great work for us in the past. They pulled out the water and sewer impact fees. So this analysis was on the other impact fees. And I apologize if you can't see that text very well, but the three keys that Mr. Burton wanted to focus on to address fair share allocation rules, rational nexus standards, and credit allowances. Talks about the Florida statute and the Impact Fee Act, and then that all impact fee analyses have to be done with localized data, separate reporting, and a distinct fund, administrative fees charged on an actual basis. And here's the key, is a 90-day notice prior to the effective date of any ordinance amending fees. And they did that. Burton also looked at these specific fees: law enforcement, fire rescue, parks, transportation, in the terms of full cost recovery, as most impact fee analyses are done, of public funds for capital facilities and services as a result of only new or more intensive increases in land uses. So it isn't just, across the board. These lessen the pressure on taxes and general fund revenues to maintain adequate levels of service, especially if they're performed incrementally, on a 5-year basis or so forth. It lessens that increment. City, as the commission, have the right to adopt any amount up to 100% of the amounts identified. So just because it's presented to you doesn't necessarily mean you have to go the full 100%. And then other goals are to update the 2007 study to create a unified complete impact fee schedule format. And the last slide will show you, excuse me, because right now in different adoption mechanisms we have, like for transportation in 2014 we adopted one method in one certain way, and then prior to that in 2006 to 2007 we adopted another method. So this is to create some uniformity. And there's the incremental update period, which we recommend to be every 5 years so we don't get too far behind. So just briefly touching each fee, the law enforcement fee focuses on services and facilities that we contract with the VCSO, and they do a really good in-depth analysis of the existing facilities, cost recovery, what we have currently, what we expenditure. Currently, Deltona is below average for the region, which includes all of Central Florida. And they calculated an increase of $63 per 1,000 developed square feet, which is still below the average for the region. It just shows that we're greatly behind the rest of the region, which represents in real terms a $9.70 increase per square foot developed unit, or overall an 8% increase of the law enforcement fee to recover your costs for what you already expend. And the fire rescue fee focused on services, facilities, and equipment replacement costs. And they did, again, a really in-depth analysis of all of our fire assessment, all of our fees, all of our facilities. We're also in this category below the region. They calculated $123 per 1,000 developed square foot fee, which is again below the average for the region. This represents in real numbers a $31.51 increase per square foot developed unit, or overall a 15% increase to make us full cost recovered. This is a little confusing the way it's written, and I'll explain it just briefly, but this is the parks impact fee, and this focuses on land, facilities, equipment, and replacement costs. Currently, Deltona in this category is the only one that we're above average for the region. In other words, we're providing, based on our population, which greatly just went up from the 2010 census, another 3,700 residents. So maybe this number is even a little out of date, but we were ahead, and so they propose a 0% increase, and this only applies to residential land uses, which you may see, let me see the pointer here, single-family dwelling unit at higher than a multifamily dwelling unit quite a bit, and that also is due to, we have cumulative impacts from the large number of single-family units throughout the city, 33,000 lots. And we have very little multifamily dwelling units, but cumulative impacts on all of our roads, all of our network, all of our water and sewer, et cetera. That's why this number is higher. And it just looks a little odd, but lack of other terms, that's the cost of sprawl right there, typically. Transportation fee. Focused on transportation facility costs. Currently, we're again below the average, calculated with the same land use categories as the other land use fees, but a different methodology because it gets into the ITE manual, the trip rates, trip generation per land use, and Burton recommends that their calculation at 100% for full cost recovery. So I tried, you won't be able to see this all the way in the back, especially with the light, but it's hard to fit everything onto one screen here. And when we bring it forward in the ordinance, you'll be able to obviously see this better. But here's the impact fee unit. Here's the biggest thing. Under the land use category, instead of numerous spreadsheets, and even in 2007 when the original study was done, they didn't fill in all the blanks. So they have land use listed, but they didn't have any assessment. So you get into a situation when you get an application that you try to get something close because it doesn't exactly line up. So this makes for a unified process here, very important in the assessment of impact fees. Here's the unit, per unit cost here. And again, trying to make it as uniform as possible per 1,000 square feet. Can't really read this, but fire rescue right here. Here's the fire rescue fee and uniformity. Here is the park, which is NA. It's only for residential uses. This is transportation, and this is law enforcement over here. So it's a concise table as a fee schedule, and staff would like to bring it forward to you in ordinance format.
Okay, Mr. Schleicher?
Yeah, I have a couple. I mean, I have no problem with almost all except for the Parks and Rec. That still bothers me an awful lot at the high cost. But I noticed when I was reading the report that part of it, they say the level of service, if we don't purchase land, whatever, might, put us in deficit or below what is expected. However, if you look at page 18, they've skipped a park. Timber Ridge Park isn't listed, and it's a fairly large park, so we put a new basketball court and everything in there, which might change a whole lot of what these assessments need to be, because that's a larger piece of property.
Well, and they did have to break out land that we owned as passive and land that we owned as active parks. So we have been through CDBG adding a lot to our park facilities in the last couple of years. So we've been taking our existing parks and adding facilities, which we haven't been buying any new land, and we certainly haven't been getting donated land for parks, for active parks. But
well, the Veterans Park's not on there either. I saw several of them,
And I
but
know
they're
Timber
not.
Ridge is a very active park, so I'm saying there's a couple here, and that might change, when they say you need to hire this assessment because you might need to purchase land. Well, we have some that are listed, that are not listed here, that would show that we really are above what we need to have. I mean, we're well within the LOS.
Okay,
The
so
other
to answer her question, well, before he goes on, to answer her question, if you were to add those parks in and their value, did you divide this by a number, come up with a number to justify this?
our consultant, I could check with them to see why they might have excluded a park or
Well, there's several of them that are missing.
Several of them, and they're active.
And there could be a good reason for that.
They have
So-
land value
But that
too,
might
even if they're
change.
not.
But
Yeah.
that might change the overall.
Well, what I was getting at, it's not just a simple, 10
Right.
divided by 10,
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
there's got to be
There's a
some other
methodology.
methodology they use.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other question I have is, because we are clear at the upper end of this one, they recommended 100% for fire, all the others, so I have no problem with that. What is the percentage we recommend for parks as far as assessing?
0% increase, or 0% change. And I put the fee in here.
Okay, but I'm saying they like for instance,
1539?
the
That's
fire
it.
and rescue impact fee says it recommended at the 100% cost recovery levels.
Right.
What percentage recovery levels do we assess? Because it said we could assess differently. Percentage
Correct.
differently.
You're
so-
only assessing the residential permits that come in, adding new units to Deltona already. So they aren't calculated the same as the non-residential. So
That's
kind of,
right.
part of the study is to try to bring them all into some common measure.
I still have a hard time with that being so high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heidi, and then I'll have
I think
some-
Jane wanted to say
Oh, I'm
something,
sorry.
so she can
If
go
you-
first.
Yeah, if you look on page 21, I think what they're saying is it actually was recommending you possibly could do a 1% decrease. So I think we're recovering.
But I'd like much more decreasing that.
We're probably, at 100%, or technically maybe
We are.
101%. They want to decrease it by 1.
Right, and within parks, you have different components. One is the land itself, and then what is the facility on it, what you're using it for. And right now, in a lot of our parks, they're underdeveloped, not underutilized per se, but they're underdeveloped. So they don't have all the walking trails, they don't have all the fields for active use on them. So it's just a matter of us not adding new parks and new facilities, but upgrading the ones that we have and expanding the ones that we have. So we have adequate land, it's just a matter of using it to the maximum development potential, said another way.
Heidi?
Well, that's the only one that we're at capacity for, or even above. All the rest were lower. I don't hear anybody saying, let's bring every other impact fee up to where our neighbors are. So, I mean, we're under an every other impact fee that is placed on a home or on a business. So, I mean, every project that this commission wants to do is 75% of the stuff that you guys want to do is all park related. A lot of this is park related. You want to have we've already done the sports study. We're, increasing fields. We're trying to do lights and work on this stuff. We just took $190,000 out of the surplus to work on parks. I mean, there's a lot of money that this commission wants to put to support our park system. And if you're going to go ahead and lower the impact fees on parks, I don't agree with that. You're already using CDBG money that could be used for other things to help, homelessness prevention and so forth. You're using a chunk of your CDBG every single year for parks. It's highly obvious that your park system needs every dollar it can get. And these are impact fees on new homes.
Correct.
These are not the residents paying an extra amount of money. This is
Right.
where new development comes in here. And if you really want to, this whole commission is about raising the image of Deltona and really trying to up what we have. We're already lower in all the other ones. I just support staying, you're not asking for an increase in parks, but just by what the commission seems the direction that you want to do with sports and everything else, I don't see how you can lower those impact fees on the parks.
All right.
Well, compounding also is we did the moratorium back to back to back, so we did three, and that downturn, so it was good at the right time, but I think this statement says it best, lessens the pressure on taxes and general fund revenues to
That's
maintain
where all the money's
adequate
coming
levels of
from right
service.
now.
Okay, I want to add and I agree with Heidi, but I want to go a step further. When I look down through this, and again, they justified it by doing a study, but some of these things I have a close connection with from our parks for all the years we've been here. And it has no charge at all for hotels, motels, no charge for daycares, no charge for other entities in the city who do utilize our parks quite a bit, and they pay nothing, absolutely nothing. And we're putting this on the back of all residential and multifamily growth, and that's not where it all comes from. I mean, it doesn't come, well, actually, we should be able to charge Google for the Pokemon craze that went on, that's gone nuts. But in seriousness, though, and I just want to look across the bottom I'm most familiar with, I mean, if you look at parks, I don't see daycares historically take trips to parks. I mean, they don't use them all the time. And public and civic institutions, they have, and their recreational facilities, indoor, outdoor, those things always lead to things at a park if there's not room inside. I don't know why. I mean, a movie theater, they're not going to take people to the park because they have movies in the building. But I don't understand some of them, banks and institutions, a small amount. I don't know why it's all dropped on the single family and multifamily residential housing units. And what is the difference between multifamily and single? Why is there such a discrepancy between that? I'm not saying lessen them, I'm saying we should be able to collect more. You put multifamily units in here, you're gonna have kids in there the same as you would in a single family home.
Oh, sure, we
So
have.
I don't see why there's a difference in it.
I think primarily because there's a predomination of single-family detached units, but,
Okay.
we just don't have, and also we don't have a lot of zone land for multifamily either, so.
But we're looking at the future, and the future of Deltona is not single-family homes. We don't have the land for that kind of growth. So if we're actually looking at boosting, and then I know there's two other commissioners want to speak, but I don't have, that. I want to go to transportation too. When you look at transportation, and they figured this, and I knew they did something, but I want to go down to the bottom. I've said this 1,000 times in my life, I guess, and it's the first time maybe as a city. Transportation fee for daycares, $23,741 impact fee. Not one of the customers in a daycare drive. The parents come once in the morning and once at night. Nothing compared to what a restaurant or a bank or anything else would do. I mean, nothing. If you're licensed for 100, you're gonna have probably less than 100 vehicles once in the morning and once at night. That's it. There's no other reason to stop there. And that is a ridiculous high fee for somebody who's looking to start a business in our city. I'm just saying, they're banks, people come and go all day, restaurants come and go, and I can understand that, bars and things like that. But that figure, I don't know where that came from.
Well, these are always typically contested because, especially when there's a much larger period of time that goes by, in review of each one. For example, Osceola County had a 304% increase one time because they had such a hiatus in their impact fees. And all Burton is doing as your consultant is just recommending their 100%, but they don't.
And we have the leeway to.
You have the leeway. The statute and the law says, as long as you don't exceed the 100%, you can select whatever you'd like, as long as it doesn't exceed the 100%.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
The methodology in that Burton and Associates used, I'm not going to attempt to even pick that apart. What's important here, what I think is important here is, number one, when we had a moratorium on impact fees, it didn't affect us one way or the other as far as deterring or encouraging development to come. There will be those people that will say, oh, if you've got high impact fees, they're not going to come, they're not going to build in Deltona. Impact fees are a way to help new businesses, new residential, pay for the impact that they're creating on the city, because they're going to demand the services day one that they're here. You're not going to collect their tax dollars until the following year, but yet you're going to have to provide a level of service and maintain a level of service. So they're a good tool to help offset that cost to the existing taxpayers. So I'm very much for impact fees. I'm not going to get down into the weeds as to whether a daycare pays something or a bank pays something. What I want to look at is, how do we overall compare to the surrounding communities? Are we too high that we're going to drive business away or residential development away? I don't see that to be the case, and that's not what I'm hearing from you and from the consultant. Again, I would prefer that when we hire a consultant, we have the consultant present at the workshops where their product's being discussed and presented. So future note there for the manager. But other than that, I support this going forward with staff's recommendation to an ordinance form for a future commission meeting.
Okay, one question, just I'm going to throw this out and you can add on to it. Where do we find the maximums that we can go to, or whatever, on certain lines?
Well, there's, we can provide you with the data and analysis.
That's what I'd like to see, because
so
I think Heidi brought up a good point.
scale.
If we're woefully low on some of these, we should be at least comparable to the neighbors. They're just.
In your report is in there, in the
I
graph.
didn't see that.
The graphs are on it. You got your
Just
finger on
small
one
It
right there in
shows
front
where
of you.
you are in
You gotta put your
comparison right
glasses
here.
on.
Here's the communities.
Shows you where you
And
are.
it
That's why I
shows
say
where-
you're high and
Okay, for
parks.
each one.
Right.
Okay,
Where we are currently,
That's
and
why I
then
look
what it
at
would be
parks and stuff,
calculated,
they're
and
higher.
Yeah, but
then
it
the
doesn't
average for
show,
the area.
well, the average, but does it show the maximum? That's what I'm getting. This just shows the average. I saw them.
It shows how we compare.
It doesn't show what we could charge for that. You were saying that there is a maximum that can be charged for that, and nowhere in any of these does it show. I don't want to hold you up with that, but see if you can give me that figure later on.
Aren't these the amounts? These are the maximums.
Those are the
What
maximum.
you see in the report are the maximum amounts.
Everything we have in here are the maximums we can go to?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
That table right there. And
All
listed
right, I
in
don't
the
want to get
report.
into debate, but I always understood that impact fees were based on a combination of factors that we had, like the parks thing, then they come up. So that's a maximum that we can charge for our city based on the research they did.
Based
That's
on
why I asked about the
your
percentage.
So we can't we can reduce it, but we can't go higher.
Correct.
Go ahead, sir.
Like Commissioner Herzberg, I don't have a problem with the Parks and Rec, but for another reason, we have, the other cities spend less on the Parks and Recs. We have over 24,000 kids. So we need a lot more Parks and Rec. And the more families move in, the more of an impact it's going to be. So I don't have any problems with that fee. I, like the mayor, though, the transportation fee for daycare is a bit steep. When you look at an office building, which has employees that come and go, $7,764. And we're going to charge a daycare $23,000. And those people are going to work and coming home from work. So they're not making that much extra
And
traffic on the road.
isn't that per 1,000 square feet? If I read this carefully, okay, I'm just going to go back years ago. I had a 3,000 to 4,000 square foot building. That would cost me, hold on, $75,000 in impact fees when you're licensed for 100 and you only come there once or twice a day. It's asinine. It's beyond, I mean, it may be mathematically fine, and I'm not picking on you all. They did the study, but there's no,
They're
we did
probably
a
thinking
survey,
it.
nobody would ever even think of building one with that kind of impact fee.
A hospital, medical office, clinic, ALF is only $4,300.
That's what I'm getting at.
Hospital's only
I say 4,000.
There's something wrong with that number.
1,000 square feet. An ALF.
But I agree with Vice Mayor. I'll move forward on this, but somebody needs to look at that, because that one, it doesn't even have the smell test. It don't pass the smell
But
test.
those are my only two comments, the rest of them.
Okay. Heidi?
Two questions. So when you're talking about that, you're talking about someone coming in and putting up a freestanding building. You're not
Correct.
talking about somebody going into a plaza and renting a building and having.
No.
Well, unless they, are increasing that use in there, but typically on the commercial retail, that often does not warrant the increase.
Okay, and the second question is, looking at residential, can you, since you're in planning and zoning, tell me how many residential units are looking at Deltona now? Do we have people wanting to bring subdivisions here?
Sure.
Like, just a round figure?
Absolutely. Well, let's see. What got approved through Fernanda Landings is about 258 units, I believe. And then what's coming forward in Vineland Reserve is 300 something units.
So that's already 500 units right there. So nobody can tell me that impact fees are impeding the development. If developer, and then I know there's several other development pieces of land that developers are looking at.
Not residential, no. I don't think it's,
Right.
I don't think it's impeding. I don't think our
It's not impeding residential at all, at all. And
Not at all.
commercial is just going to be driven on what the commercial entity wants and if the land's available. That's just, so.
Well,
Thank you.
I'll never give up on the fact that we are a residential community, and that fee would discourage anybody that I can think of other than a major change of ever going into that business.
Oh, the daycare?
It's kind of, yeah, I mean, it's, that's why all the churches do it.
Not if they're going to pay that fee in Orange City, the
Yeah,
land.
exactly.
New
If-
Smyrna Beach.
That's what I asked them to check.
If the fee is
They're paying that
comparable.
everywhere, but they're not building them. And the cost of daycare, ask any working mother what the cost of daycare is.
Yeah,
It's
but no, we're not in the
astronomical.
business of regulating the cost
No,
of daycare.
I understand. I'm just saying
Every
that-
single city.
I guess
You know.
it's a long-standing, it's always irked me that it's challenged at,
We'll see what they have in other
such a
cities.
crazy rate, but if you look at
That's
it.
best.
Anything else? Okay. And if you can get me that information when you get a chance. And so this is just a move forward. You don't need any
Just the
action by us.
permission to move
but-
forward.
Yeah. So there's no recommendation to reduce, and if you would check on that, I guess, not for the commission, but just for me, I'd just like to know where they pulled that number out of, because I can't find it here. Okay, next item on the agenda is item number B, and it's a discussion of City of Deltona's Master Transportation Impact Analysis. Mr. Bowler, you're up again.
I'm just going to do the quick lead-in. We were asked to get a scope to look at phase 2 of your capital improvement program for transportation. So we contacted one of our continuing transportation consultants, Mr. Jerry Woods from BCC, also a Deltona resident. And he
For
gave
100
us,
years.
and he is here tonight, actually. And he gave us a scope, which is attached. And really, going into the details with your transportation bond, I'm going to defer to Gerald to get into more of the details if you have any questions, but I just want to bring that to you.
Okay. Questions?
1 through 7, I'm good.
I gotta tell Jerry, and I've known her for a long, long time, we had a mutual friend that used to work for me. He's very familiar with my,
Well, and I did pro bono work for the MSP back.
yeah, back in the old
For the
days.
city.
Before we were a city, yeah. All right, Eddie, nothing, no questions, nothing?
Say move forward.
Okay, so we're moving right along. You don't need any action by us,
Permission to go forward.
it's there, move forward. Okay, I didn't hear nothing, all right. Next item on the agenda is item number C, discussion regarding possible orders relating to rental housing. Ms. Voss.
Okay, I was asked to bring this subject up because it has been raised, particularly with regard to beautification and that sort of thing, as to some kind of a regulatory ordinance having to do with rental houses. We've done that in the past, I believe unsuccessfully, and Dale can probably be the one to address, why it wasn't successful in the past, but we just
Okay.
wanted to bring it up to get ideas
Yeah.
what y'all might want.
Yeah, somebody did. You want to hear from Dale first, or you want to
Yep,
comment?
Dale
Dale,
first.
you, tell us the pitfalls when we did it, what happened.
Back in late 2006, early 2007, we looked at doing a rental ordinance where we were going to actually hire rental inspectors and go in and inspect rental units on, I think, an annual basis. We were laying off building inspectors at the time, so we decided to take 3 of those building inspectors and make them rental inspectors. The commission decided not to go down that road, so the 2 of the building inspectors luckily found employment at other cities. We took 1 of the building inspectors and made him a code enforcement officer, where he worked until he retired. The ordinance that we did bring forward was, we were saying, okay, we're tired of mailing certified letters out of the country, out of the state, what we had a local point of contact. So what we came up with was an ordinance that basically required all rental properties to register and give us a local point of contact if the owner didn't live within 50 miles of Deltona. Which supposedly we were, that person then would manage that property. The downside was, and I'm just going to make this up, I'm going to use an example, is I live in New York State, I own a house here in Deltona that I'm renting out. I have to come up with a local point of contact. I don't want to hire a property manager, so I have a cousin who lives in Orlando, who has a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend who lives in Sanford. There's my local point of contact. That local point of contact can care less about that rental property. So, or even if they hire professional property managers, those property managers, we actually made booklets up about codes, gave it to them and said, here's what we expect from you. They kicked back and sat back and didn't do anything until we called them. So it failed. It didn't work. So that's where we're at today. That helps.
Mitch?
Yes, sir. And one of the pitfalls that I see with that one is they weren't required, they're required to register. And I'm not even in for doing inspections of their buildings. But if they register, they are assigned a rental business sticker that goes on their window with a number. When code goes out there and sees a big pile of trash from a move out, with that, they register, they have the property manager and the owner's contact data on file. The number is right there. Okay, you've been contacted with this violation. You have whatever the 24 hours, whatever it is to clean it up. And that's our way of contacting. They've registered. Their property is a rental property. They're paying us $30, $35 a year to register their property with the city. And that way we can help the city stay
So
beautiful.
you support that?
I support putting one together, but you don't have to inspect it. Just
Okay,
when
just
they
simple
sign up
one.
and they
You
register,
sign them up and
they get a sticker. If it's not, then they get
Got
a
a
fine.
number,
If it's not
goes on the
predominantly
window.
displayed, and we find it's a rental property, they're fined for not having their sticker displayed.
All
We
right.
can contact them.
Okay, that's your proposal.
Yes, sir.
Janie, did you want to?
Yeah, my question is that how do we maintain the integrity of that list? Because some people will
Well,
automatically register, others
That's the
probably
fun part of
won't.
this job. We just tell you to do it,
But-
and you
but-
have to figure out how to do it.
No, I know that, but I see that as very problematic, so
Yeah.
it might be that, all right, you have some type of code violation, and then you're either doing abatement issue a citation, then you kind of drill down.
That was where we were at 10 years ago, 8 years ago. We couldn't figure out how to contact these people, and Dale hit the nail on the head. The sticker idea, probably no different than him code enforcement going on hanging a thing. If they're doing 24 hours, you're gonna bait it, you're gonna charge it off, same thing, but I'm willing to listen. Heidi, go ahead.
I'm really torn on this because the way it was in the past was a failure for the simple reason that you got, number one, I mean, people didn't even know that had rental homes here that you had to register. That was number one. I mean, that I know that because I had a client that had rental homes in Deltona. I'm like, are you registered? He looked at me like I had 3 heads. What are you talking about? They never knew. So now whether that was, failure on their part, they don't live here, or it just, they didn't know. That's number one. Number two, I know that they had issues with people, renters looking to the city as a mediator and saying, hey, the hot water heater's not working, the air conditioner's not working, and calling the city and trying to use that as an intermediary. Am I wrong?
No.
That was the other problem with it. However, and I know that it's certainly, people always think that city does this stuff as a moneymaker. It was not a moneymaker. There was no financial benefit to the city. So for anybody to think we're gonna make money off of this by charging a fee, it takes an extra staff person, one at least, to do all that. So those are for me the questions and negatives. The positives, because you all know I go all over the city on the other program, I would never support this unless staff, some way, somehow, cross-references these homes with the property appraiser, and we all know what's, Cheryl's rolling his eyes. I mean, because so many of these, how many of these have I run up to? These people are homesteaded and they're rental properties. And then you have people, they don't have a point of contact on there. They're a renter, but their point of contact is everything goes to that home. So they don't have another contact address or no other way for the city to get a hold of them. And we have a situation going on right now with that, where there's multiple issues. And there's no way to really address the landlord. Even threatening them with court, it's just not working. So I'm all for having something where we have some sort of a reference point for property managers or landlords, and I'm also for, and you guys have heard me say that, if there's a violation at that home, no matter how small, the tenant gets noticed and the landlord gets noticed, because a lot of these things, if the landlord's not getting noticed, they don't know what's going on in their home, whether it's dog at large, parking issues, or anything else. I'm a firm believer that if there's a violation at the home, a letter goes to the tenant and to the landlord. And sometimes, again, you don't have a point of contact. So I'm torn as far as interior inspections. When you look at that, I don't see that we have the manpower for that. I mean, to me, that's like, how would that work? So I'm really,
I'm not
I don't
supporting
know.
going into anybody's house, I'll tell you that.
I agree with you on that. We don't have
No way.
manpower for it.
Well, not even
And I
manpower.
don't want to get into
I don't want
the
to-
responsibility of
Going in
potential-
someone's
potential liability.
Doesn't Dale
Not
have
today,
that?
not to this day and
I mean,
age
not
when people
Daytona.
all have guns and it's great. No, we
Doesn't
ain't sending
Daytona have
people
that?
in.
Don't they have an inspection, Daytona? Don't they have their ordinance goes for it, but they don't do
South
it?
Daytona does, I'm not sure about Daytona.
Let me just add one other quick thing. Not only that, but when we were talking about this, you remember, Dale, that chambers are filled with people who have multiple rentals in town. And also, when someone is homesteading property and renting it, which is totally illegal, we can say something to the property appraiser, same thing, does he have the people to go out there and make sure? I mean, you have to
They do.
physically go. Yeah, they do, but
They
he's the guy
research.
that has to go out and make that call. And
They research almost every complaint.
I know, but I'm just saying, then we become Big Brother turning everybody in, and
Good.
it's a mess. Yeah,
Yeah.
you should. You want to
Well,
speak.
this came out of the conversation about cleaning up the city, and that most of our problem properties are rental properties because the people there are not invested or committed to the community. They're transient. Now, that's not everybody. That's not to say that everybody that rents is a bad tenant, but historically, that's a lot of our problem. So I think we all agree that as part of this ordinance, the base for it, the genesis, is we have to have a database of who's rental, who's not rental. And the simplest place to start with that is the property appraiser. Who's homesteaded, who's not homesteaded. Are you going to capture 100%?
Just for the record, there's approximately 12,500 residential properties that are not homestead exempted. And last time we did send out rental notices, there was about 1,300. So I'm guessing the number is much larger than the 3,500. But I don't know how to determine.
It probably is much larger, and simply for the fact that as we've come out of this recession and these foreclosures are being sold and fixed up, they're being sold and fixed up to be rental properties. So we probably do have more. My point is exactly highlighted by that. That's our problem. That's our problem child, is the rental properties. And we're going to continue to get more of those. And when the time comes that Farmington starts to build, we're going to have even more. So we need to first set that baseline, set that foundation, identify as many of those rental properties as we can. And there's several different ways that information can flow into the database. It can flow from fire, it can flow from code enforcement, it can flow from animal control. There's a number of ways it can happen. And you say you have difficulty, you noticed, you have a violation, you notice the tenant, okay? You have trouble identifying the landlord. The tenant knows who he's sending the check to. Every month, the tenant knows who is he paying. Go ahead, Dale.
You'd be surprised how many tenants we talk to. We say, hey, it shows that the landlord lives here. He doesn't. Give us an address where he lives. I don't know where he lives. Who do you give your check to? Oh, he stops by once a month and picks it up. They won't give us that. Now, granted, they probably know, but they won't give it to us.
Yeah.
But
then when we identify that as a problem, that's when staff needs to come back to the commission. Becky needs to get crafty with the ordinance, and we hit somebody in their pocketbook. The larger the penalty fees in this case for non-compliance will help, and I mean they need to be ridiculously high. The penalties, not the registration, the penalties. When somebody's non-compliant, when they don't register the property as a rental, that needs to be a huge fine.
last time I believe it was $250.
It needs to be way more than that, because it's a business. It is a significant business. You have people in this community, or they don't even live in this community, they have dozens of rental properties. It's a business. It should not be treated any different than any other business in terms of complying. And when they don't comply, we need to hit them in the pocketbook. We hit a mom and pop because they didn't know they were supposed to get a permit to add a room on to their house. And they added a room, and we hit them with a $500 a day fine that ran up into the tens of thousands of dollars, and they didn't even know it was there because they didn't speak English. And they wound up trying to refinance the house to keep from losing it, and that's when they found out there was liens filed against them. So, and they ended up having to tear the room down because they didn't have the money to do the x-raying that needed to take place. So all I'm saying is we take somebody who's a homeowner and we can fine them tens of thousands of dollars, and they're losing their house because they can't afford it, they can't refinance it. Yet somebody who has dozens of houses here, and it's a business, it's an income for them, and we're only looking at a $250 fine on something rather than something that multiplies for lack of compliance. I find that kind of bass-ackwards, and we should. This ordinance, I think, will be something that we will continually modify and add to, because it's the bulk of our problems. You know, we talked about
there was so many things that came up.
Right, so many things, so if we had a rental ordinance, we could put that in the rental.
What do you do if you own a home and you want your kid to live in it? I still own it, I do, as long as you're not doing. My question is, and then I'll let you finish and go to Heidi, but my question is, if you go to a house tomorrow, maybe we're not doing enough of this, with a code violation, you go up to the door or you contact them somehow, or they call in and just say, according to the property appraiser, you're not the owner of that house, Mr. Jones, it's Mr. Brown, or whatever, okay? And they say, no, we're renting. Do we have a standard form? Do we send the property appraiser immediately? Because according to the records, it shows as it's a homesteaded piece of property. Do we have a form saying, as of this date, we know this house is not homesteaded? We don't do that,
Sometimes we
right?
make a phone call.
Well, no, I'm saying, but it should be,
We have a process.
that would be a process that should be instituted, that's a sheet of paper, or maybe they have a way that they'll know they're coming from you, and you can do it electronically, just ship it over. But that would be a way to stop it.
But what I want to do with this ordinance is, I don't
Find a way.
want to penalize the good property managers and the good landlords that are here. What I do want to do is I want to nail the ones that are fly-by-night, that don't take care of their tenants and don't take care of the property, and create the eyesores. Now, that might not be a simple fix, and it might be difficult to craft that ordinance to try and cover as many circumstances as possible, but we have to start somewhere. And we have to start with the database, I think, from the property appraiser's office, and then build it, and it's got to be maintained. Is it going to be 100% accurate? No, but I think it's going to be better than what we have today.
Okay, I'll let Heidi and then Jane and then Becky tell us what you need to go forward.
We have access to a database from the property appraiser's office where you can plug in numerous different, the guy that does it.
Tax bill, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
There are ways to direct, to find out. You can plug in all sorts of numbers and all sorts of requests. Can you
Well,
not?
we would not know if it's a rental, we would only know if it's an exempted or non-exempt piece of property.
But it also lists the exemptions. You can also divide that up by exemptions, by which exemptions are there. So if it's exempted and it shows you it's a veteran's exemption, for the most part, you know that it's a veteran going to be living there. That can all be done and classified by the exemption, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the first place to start, and then go ahead and look and see if we can do it. If you're okay with that, I mean, that's definitely a way to at
If it's
least.
a veteran though, you'd have to see his DD 214, which they don't need to supply, but he has supplied that to the property appraiser to get
But
the
that's what I'm
exemption.
saying.
But if he's not living there,
It still isn't good.
it's an all of his exemptions would be
But
phony.
for the
you know.
most part, I know veterans in this city that have 100% exemption, and for
Oh,
the
yeah.
most part, those people aren't renting out the
they
property. They're
live in it.
living in it
Yeah.
because that's how they survive, or that's how
Yeah.
And if they
you know what I
didn't-
mean?
If they didn't, they would lose all exemptions.
Exactly,
They would
exactly.
not.
So I mean, there's a way to break down your thing by exemption. Is it just a general? Are you old and broke? Have you lived here X amount of years? Whatever, there's a way to do that.
But don't we tell them let subjects, just tell the subjects.
But why would you want that, Heidi?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's the homestead.
the idea is the homestead's the big one. The other ones, I don't want to get in their
Yeah,
personal
but some
business.
people have a $50,000 homestead.
But if
other-
they're,
for
yeah, but if they're
25
not living there anyway and they're renting it, they lose all them exemptions.
exemptions.
The
That's true,
minute
but
you-
it also helps you get a better idea of your demographic and what you're looking at, and it truly gives you a breakdown. What is the exemption that we allow from the city? What is the one that we have control over?
Well, we passed
The
the
senior exemption.
senior exemption.
So I mean, it should give you a handle on how many people. I mean, look at our demographics. How many people still have that senior exemption? Has that gone up? Has that gone down? I mean, personally, just from a demographic standpoint, I'd like to know which direction our city is moving to. You can pull all those numbers for all that. I mean,
But what would it do?
Is that necessary?
I'm sorry, I'm not
No,
trying to be
it's
difficult, but
necessary.
I'm not,
Well, have you ever-
how
have
would
you
it
ever
help us
looked-
with the rental ordinance?
It helps you because it gives you a database altogether, and not only that, I don't think this commission really knows what type of exemptions are on there and how many people have a ton of exemptions on their home, and how legit are those? Most of them are, but I mean, there are definitely.
Homestead's the big one. Okay, Jane, Becky, jump in here. What?
Did you want to hear? Well, I'm trying to figure out, I heard a statement like if we had a rental ordinance that would solve this. I'm not really sure I understand that. What is the problem that we're trying to solve that we think a rental ordinance will provide the solution for? Because right now, if there's a code violation, depending on the nature, whether it's on site or in the right of way, you've got citations, you've got abatements.
But they go to the renter.
I think Heidi hit the nail on the head. I mean, she confused me with all this other stuff, but you hit the nail on the head.
Surprised.
All that veteran stuff ain't got nothing to do because homestead is homestead and then they're out of it. That means they're out of the house. But the other ones, I mean, that's fine for if you just want numbers, you like to play with those numbers. But the key, well, you do, but the key is what you said before. Maybe we need to look at a system where we notify the landowner instantly, the property owner, instead of the person at the house and everything.
But
that
the problem that
mail it.
Mr. Baker is telling you is that in several cases, you have the property owner saying that he lives there at the house. That's the mailing address for him. When they mail the notice to that location, he's not there, he's not getting the notice.
Well,
you're not getting compliance. You're not getting compliance if you can't make contact.
Then you find him on the house and he can't say we didn't attempt to send it to you.
That's my point. What Jane is asking what this is going to do.
Yeah.
This is going to give us, outside of the general code enforcement issues, you're dealing specifically with rental property. And the non-compliance for the property owner is going to be much more severe on a rental property. The idea here is to force the guy who's making money on that property to keep it up and maintain it, or get out of the business.
Is it legal to charge a different fee on a homesteaded property
Versus a.
Not for the violation.
Well, I'm asking the attorney. Okay, so that, okay.
Not for that violation.
But the other one for not being
registered and not providing the proper contact information, I think that we can hang them on.
We could do, that could be an additional violation. In other words, I'm just going to throw a number out, and Navik wants it to be 5 times as much. But if it's $100 fine for a violation, or $25, whatever, if they find out then that it's a rental property and you're homestead that property, the fine could be an additional fine, right? If you're renting a property that you're claiming, well, not to get into homestead, but stay away from that.
Yeah, I want to mention that the fact that you're not a homestead doesn't make you a rental, because there are a lot of snowbirds who come down here.
That have 2 homes.
And they can't homestead it because they've got a homestead.
Right. I didn't say it was 100%. I said that it's a pretty good database to start with.
If we sent every letter of violation to the property owner, right? That would not give you your 24-hour turnaround because you wouldn't have time to get the letter out.
I know it's important. We do send every single notice of violation to the property owner.
Yeah.
Oh, you currently do?
But that takes them before the special magistrate, and we can only take property owners before the special magistrate.
Okay, there you go.
I thought we were doing that already.
Okay, so that solves it.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't solve it.
Can I please explain?
Yeah, go ahead.
If I come out to your house and you're a tenant and your dog's running loose, I write you a citation. You go into county court. I don't necessarily contact the property owner.
Okay.
Now, if I come out there a second time, now I may contact the property owner because obviously the ticket's not working.
Okay.
So we're mixing
The
words.
tickets and the other, okay, good. I think somebody was in, no? Back to you.
And I'm going to respectfully disagree with that, Dale, because that's the problem. If you write a ticket, how many tickets do you write? Let's say I'm a property owner and I say, Nancy, you can rent my house for X amount, but no pets. Okay? So you go in there and I'm out of state or I'm wherever and there's 5, and Nancy's pit bulls are running at large all the time. Well, I'm just saying, you can talk about parking violation, and here's the deal. Okay, so Nancy's pit bulls are running all over the place and there's 3 violations against that. I'm the property owner. I've never been noticed that there's a dog at large issue, and Nancy's dog now bites the neighbor's child who wandered onto the property.
That goes with what Chris says.
Now, I can't, but you can't go out, can you go after me as a property owner anymore? No, you can't, because you never noticed me that there were dogs at large.
But that's what Chris was saying. You're not a good property owner if you're not paying attention to your property. You're renting a house and saying no pets and there's.
But I'm just saying, well, I have a huge problem with not notifying the landlord with every, is a parking violation a ticket?
Could be.
But what are they? Are they usually tickets?
We can take it for special matters.
No, but what do you do normally? A parking ticket that goes to county court?
It all
Depends on what it
depends.
is.
If it's own property, we drag it for special matters a lot of times.
Yeah, but how do you know? What if it's, you don't know? And the
Because
thing
when they're
is,
dealing with the person, we know. Whether
But
they're the owner or the tenant.
I still feel,
But you can also make it so that every time we give a notice of violation, which goes before the special magistrate.
Again, I know I keep saying this, but every time we issue a notice of violation, it is going to the property owner. What we can change, if I can get through this, is every time we issue a citation, we could notify the property owner. We can do that.
That's
It's
what-
gonna be a letter
that's
to the
what
property
I-
owner.
you
saying,
want
"Hey,
not
we issued
only
your tenant a
violation,
ticket
but-
for this."
it
By
should be because
citation.
you can't.
Okay, well, he's saying we can do that. That's something we can direct staff to do. All right, did you want to say something,
Well, yeah,
Jane?
which is why if we are notifying the landlord, all right, or the property owner, I don't understand this registration because.
Well,
formally-
that's what, we're getting back around to what you, there's not much sense if we're gonna do this. Go ahead, you had something else.
Well, two, we do need to register them as rental properties.
Okay, tell us why now.
They do need to pay a rental fee, and they do need, as silly as it sounds, that sticker on there, because beautifying Deltona, and you go out there and you have this big pile of junk, and that resident is gone.
Okay,
that
rather
guy
than
is not
try to
registered.
plead the case, explain right now to us, because I want to agree with you. I think you got something there, but I'm not understanding it. I go up to the house, Dale comes up to my house,
Mm-hmm.
and on my, for my three.
Wendy comes up to your house.
My 3 pit bull and 17 cats that Heidi's dropped off in my yard. And-
They're all
and-
fixed though.
And the sticker is on the front of my door that says 7-62- whatever, okay? And that's my yearly thing because I'm renting from some slumlord, okay? So what does that give him?
That gives
Because
him-
he goes to that number then and he pulls up the landowner.
The landowner and the property manager, if they have them both, is pulled up their contact,
Okay.
their emails and phone numbers, because when they register, they have to fill
Okay,
all that out.
and so, okay, so now Dale, you came to my house, you saw a violation, you looked on the door, you see the sticker, you now hit your computer, up jumps the property owner's name, previous violations, whatever for that address. How does that help solve our problem? Does it?
We still go back to, do you give them notice of violation or citation?
So you're doing the same thing.
So he's right back to where he was at again. I mean, he's still got that information, and I understand what you're saying, but
But before, all you had was renter's information. He said himself, you go to that renter and say, well, who's your landlord? I don't know.
no, but he's got that in the computer. He can key in that address.
Then why did he ask? No, he doesn't. Why did he ask? Who's your
You
landlord? I
can't
don't know.
find that out.
No, here's the problem, okay. Vice Mayor said, okay, I come to the house, I knock on the door, you're a tenant, you don't own the property, I don't own this property, I'm renting, from who? I don't know, this guy's name's whatever, guy name's Billy Bob, where's he live? I don't know, he stops by once a month, picks up. I go on Bush County property appraisers, Billy Bob lives at that address, okay? We know he doesn't. But under the law, I mail him his notice of violation to that address.
To Billy Bob.
To Billy Bob at
And
that
then-
address.
so what's,
Billy Bob doesn't get the letter because you're not going to give it to him.
Because it's going to that
It's
house.
going to that address.
Because I mailed that letter and
Because
it
they're listed
comes
as
back
a
to
homeowner.
either accept it or unclaimed refuse, I can still take Billy Bob in court. I've done, so I don't, you know what I mean? So I can still do it,
All right.
whether I know where he lives or not.
In fairness to Commissioner Honecker, now explain how the sticker with the number on the door is going to help them.
They are registered as a landlord, and they've registered their information of their address where you can mail it to them and phone it to them.
So,
So
okay.
they're not going to put the address where they're, I don't live there, I'm renting it. So they can't put that same
Okay,
address.
okay, here's my, okay,
Well,
say.
can I stop you right there?
No, because
Yeah.
I'm going to say
Well,
this.
they can't-
Billy Bob's renting a house, claiming he still lives there, and Billy Bob ain't there, so there ain't going to never be no sticker on the wall.
Question is,
Now,
They
in
want to
this
pay that homestead.
ordinance,
Well, that's why
if you
workshops are
make
so
the
much fun.
penalty
Strict
for
it. Yeah,
not registering it,
$10,000
not
not fine.
registering.
if
Now
you
we're out
make
there,
it-
renters, I'm a renter.
you
Okay,
make
now you got a
that-
penalty for not registering.
if you make that penalty as high as the law will permit it to be for not
Just
registering,
rental property, just.
and you go after
Chime in,
them,
Heidi.
you go
Okay.
after them
We know
for
where you're
that,
coming from.
then that's going to deter some of those
Hopefully.
slumlords, as you described
Right now,
it,
we have nothing. This
Well,
is
I'm
something.
just saying, I didn't describe that way, but there are
And
some.
my last comment, wait a minute, before we go off my little thing, okay? My last comment is, we're telling them, well, we won't say how to suck eggs, just tell them to suck eggs. We're telling them how to develop their list of rental homes. Let them, do we want the ordinance or not, and let them develop how they come up with that list. We're getting into operations again on, okay, this is how you can develop the list. You can do this, let them figure that out.
Okay, keeping the list up there is gonna be a killer.
Yeah.
You, Dale's got something in hiding.
Okay, if I can, and this is probably gonna be more for Becky, and I don't want to blindside this because she's probably not gonna know the answer off her head. I remember back, talking about your sticker that goes on the door, I remember back, I think before Becky was our attorney, we had an issue with a guy who had venomous snakes in his house. We said he couldn't have them.
Tivoli, I know.
Florida Wildlife Commission came and said, oh, yes,
Yes,
you
you
can.
can, yeah.
So we said, well, you're gonna put a sticker on your door saying it, and we were told, oh, no, he's not.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know legally if we can make someone put a sticker on their door that says.
Saying that's the
this is
rental
your-
house.
If you register an alarm in one city and you get your alarm sticker, you will put this on your window.
I'm just
Telling you.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
that's.
that,
Filled out all the forms.
all right, we're gonna let Heidi speak, and then we're gonna let Becky speak, and see if she has enough information, probably not.
The only way that, because the problem that I see is the same, and I look up every single house that I have to go to see if I'm dealing with a landlord or a renter. And a lot of times I have ran into that today. The house is registered to X and the address is the same, but you know it's not a homesteaded home. So the only way to do that is research. You're gonna have to put some manpower into it and research to try to do a search and try to find out where the person is. I mean, because if somebody's not gonna give up their address and they know the game well enough that all your notices are going to that mailbox and the tenant's gonna toss them, you know, or gonna give them to a pile when you come once a month
Do what you wanna do.
you know, collect the check, here's your mail. I mean, the only way to get around that fact is if you can't find the landowner because of what they've done, it's gonna have to be manpower to do that.
Make
There's
it
no other way.
serious enough fine that, yeah.
But what do they care if you can't find them unless you start leaning the house?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And what do they
he
care if
says,
it's a rental? I
if
mean,
you have
know,
a serious
they
enough
don't care.
fine.
You're never gonna
The only time they're gonna sell it is when they
There's
want
always gonna be those exceptions.
and then pay the lien.
Okay, Becky, tell us where we're at. Do you have any help at all? or-
Okay, well, I just wanted to make a comment about the sticker. I mean, everything is computerized in the city. I mean, we can, if we have a master list of people who have registered, we don't have to have an embarrassing sticker on the front.
They can just
of
call it
somebody's
up on the
house.
computer.
They just look it up, they just bring it up on the computer and see that it's registered. They'd have all that. And I think that there's a problem with stigmatizing people who rent. I mean, they are voters, they are citizens, they should not be looked down upon and.
And it doesn't have to say renter, business license number.
No.
Well, we
because
got
the
in-
rental- Because
Like,
what's
look
the
on the
point?
computer.
They know that you're at 123 Smith Street or something. When they key that into their computer, it will pop up. Here is the owner, here's the, you know, the manager, whatever. I
Okay,
just.
all right,
I
I
don't
think
wanna have
we
to-
can, we
I
can
think
beat
it
this to
can
death
be,
all
I
night.
think, I agree, you know, it doesn't have to be a physical sticker, it can be an electronic sticker.
Okay,
Sure,
okay.
absolutely.
Do you have a copy of the ordinance you're thinking about referring to? Can you get that?
Our old ordinance? No, it's.
No, not our old, we have
What
that,
one?
but
No.
that one was, that just didn't work at all. I mean,
No, the sticker part of it, no. I got an
What-
alarm sticker that,
what I'm
that the city
hearing-
uses for making them have alarm stickers and they're
I just
fine.
made a few notes, but they're pretty paltry here. I mean, and we want to register people, a large penalty if they don't. Notify property owners every time there's a citation. We already do have that if it goes to the special magistrate. And somebody said something about a property manager. I don't know if we want to require a professional property manager.
No, just if they have one, we want their contact data too, both
I think-
owner and property manager if they
I
have
think,
one.
I think this is
Becky,
an
one of the-
example
And
of
that's all I
government.
have
One of
with
the-
the sticker, and I respectfully suggest
One of the,
maybe that's not.
one of the questions, or one of the folks you might want to contact is contact the Sheriff's Department Legal. They have an alarm registration ordinance. I believe we have it here.
Edgewater has an alarm
We have it in the
registration
city. There's, see how they deal with compliance and stuff. If they don't have the proper owner contact information in there, or the alarm company, maybe some of that verbiage that's in the alarm registration will work
Okay,
in crafting this?
I mean, this is gonna be awful lot easy to draft because it's basically the same one we had before. It required the registration, it required that if you didn't live within 50 miles, you designate somebody in order to.
But aren't we
receive
getting
whatever.
into
It's the same
people's
as
business
we-
too much when we already currently have an ordinance that can attack all this? I think the only thing that I feel comfortable with is what Heidi said. And he said, already doing that, we're already notifying everybody except
Not with
fines.
tickets.
What, that, you didn't let me finish.
That doesn't.
So if we notify him with fines too, then that landowner, whether he gets it or not, somebody's gonna pay that fine, or we're gonna
Lien the house.
lien the house.
Does that give you the ability to lien the house then if he's saying no?
Not a fine. What happens, what about an unpaid fine?
Not a citation.
Again, if I go to your house and you're a renter and I write you a ticket,
Right.
you're going into county court. That is not a lien against property. That is against you personally.
But the judge can throw it out, or he can make me pay it, or what, or what's the
But it
alternative?
goes against you, not
Yeah,
the property.
that's right.
Now, what I can do is mail a first-class letter to
The
the
landowner.
landlord in wherever and say, hey, by the way, we're having this issue, and we just issued your
Ooh.
tenant.
Now
citation."
can you legally do that? If it's a personal, well, wait, that way, don't, y'all ain't the attorneys, we pay somebody from attorney experience. If a individual, a person, not talking about landowner, does something wrong, and he cites them with a fine, a ticket, can he then notify the homeowner?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, because it goes on.
I have a problem.
If it's a
Cities
home
don't-
issue, but if it's a dog issue or a car issue,
Or maybe just notices
because as long as it happened on that property is what you get. Okay, okay. I just want to make sure. I don't want to listen to this attorney on my left and, you
But the
know, I want
ordinance
Well,
is
tell-
a
it's a
city
public record.
law. And with an ordinance, you can lien the property for not being registered. Just like when you have an alarm in your house, an alarm goes off and the police show
that's
up.
different. We understand that one, but he's talking about
And
the
they didn't
judge.
register, it's a $50 fine.
But the
You don't
prob-
pay that $50 fine, now they can lien your property.
Okay, that's- but he's saying the
The
judge.
problem with what you're setting up here,
I'm not setting
no, the problem with, you're saying, no, we've already got this in place. The problem is that you notify the landlord that the guy got a ticket for dogs, and he kicks the tenant out, and he rents to another guy, who's just as unscrupulous as the first guy.
And has cats instead.
You're not dealing with the landlord
Not fining the
who's the problem in the way he manages his property. You have to, he's managing that property to make a buck, and you have to make it difficult for that person if they don't follow the rules.
Well, back in '07, what we were gonna do is we were gonna treat a landowner of a rental property as a business. They would have had to pay a business tax, they would have had to register, and it got so bad that the commission was all getting goofy. So we're gonna keep beating a dead horse on this. Commissioner Schleicher, and then let's let Jane speak after that on what she needs, or do we need to look at some ordinances and the whole ordinance and find out if there's something we want to adopt here a little bit?
That's exactly where I was going, because we've all had different things
Plenty of
said.
opportunity to talk.
I think we've given our attorney enough information. I would like to see her go ahead and write a draft, because we know this is a
Well,
draft.
get us
Let it come
one
back
that-
to us and let us see if that's what we want, or at that point, do we need to tweak it? Because we're not gonna get anywhere just throwing all these ideas back and forth.
Okay.
Let her draft one first, then let's take a look at it.
I think they're two separate issues too.
Well,
Fines as well as,
I think, but we have a process. I mean, you do the notice of violation that goes against the
Like a
landlord.
process.
Don't issue the citation, don't give the ticket, go to notice of violation, we go through that.
do away with tickets altogether?
No.
Well,
Here's my question. Like I said, Commissioner Hertzberg, can I borrow your car? Because
Reluctantly.
if you do, I'm gonna go out here on Providence Blvd, I'm gonna drive 80 miles an hour. When this deputy pulls me over, I'm telling him, man, don't write me a ticket. This is my car, write the vehicle owner a ticket. I look at that as the same way with a dog running loose. Property owner doesn't know that dog's running loose, so we
Oh, I
go after
got
the
you.
violator, and we write them a ticket. Now, if that violator doesn't comply, then we go after the property owner. We go after the violator.
First.
You know, because again, it may not be an irresponsible property owner.
All right, we,
I want to piggyback on that. If you take my car and I let you ride it, and you drive down there at 80 miles an hour and kill somebody, I'm getting sued too. Because it's my vehicle. Just
But
saying.
again, that raises.
we're getting into
So I'm
a
just
whole
saying.
different
But
can
that's
of
what
worms
it's
here.
Not let Becky write something and let us
See, Brandy?
look at it.
Okay,
He wants
the perception is how we get off. All right, you kind of got an idea where we're going, but I think what we should do, rather than ask her to write an ordinance, let's get a couple ordinances and see how they're working. You know, maybe one of the other cities.
What was the old one?
I know, it basically was, and that lasted,
I got that in my
that lasted, yeah. All right, well, how about send the old one through, and then we can do our pen and ink changes to that. Send it back to her and see what it is. That way you don't have to spend a lot of time writing it. All right, is anybody, I'm afraid to do this. Anybody in the audience want to make a quick comment? You see how I knew. All right, Smiley.
Just
Your name and address for the record.
Smiley Thurston, 608 Saxon Boulevard, Deltona, Florida. I have 20 properties in the land. And for the past 15 years, they've been collecting a business tax fee. It goes to the management company that's been the same for the 15 years. And then I pay it, and I have to sign it, send it back to the management company, who sends it to the city. And it seems to be very successful, and that's the city of DeLand's.
That's registered business,
It
okay.
does work.
Okay,
It's a business
Thank you,
tax.
Smiley.
all right.
Anita Bradford.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
I just, yeah, go ahead.
You still gotta say the name.
Address.
Address, that's what. Name and address.
0813 Amber Ridge Street.
You had sunglasses on, I thought you were
My eyes are dilated.
incognito.
I'm sorry.
That
Thank
hurts.
you. I was just trying to be glamorous.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I really can't see. Okay.
Wendell Smacker.
Oh.
Keep her straight.
You're gonna get this a drill.
Okay.
As a landlord, number one, not all landlords are slumlords. If somebody goes to my tenant, because my tenant's done something, and I'm not driving by his home every day, or her home every day, and my tenant says, I don't know where they live, I don't know their address, I don't know how to get a hold of them, yeah, they deserve to be penalized, okay? Either I notify you and I give this to you. It's not fair to the landlord to say, I'm gonna impose a huge penalty on you because my tenant is trying to hide something from me. Does that make sense? Now, I understand if you've got repeated offenses over and over and over a period of time, and I haven't responded to it. So if Dell sends something to me, and obviously, when you look up the property appraisers, it's gonna have our names on the property that we own.
But as a good landlord, though, if you got a letter from him saying you had a problem, you'd be contacting your renter.
Exactly, I'm gonna be contacting them.
That's the key.
And if we had a
Throw out a huge fine right away,
And if we had a registration program, as a good landlord, you would register.
which we did, which we have
Right.
previously
And
registered.
what I'm saying is the guy who doesn't want to register, he doesn't want to find people to find out because he's still claiming homestead
He
or
ain't gonna do
whatever he's doing. When we catch that guy that's not following the rules, he needs to
He
get the
gets-
penalty.
The one that obviously.
I don't want to charge a large registration fee. I know DeLand's is what is it, Smiley, 30?
$25.
25, okay, so it's still 25 per property.
And it's done as a business?
It's right on their business, they use their business tax license in DeLand for a whole lot of
We
stuff.
did it here too as a business tax, but they
Okay.
wouldn't use it.
All right.
But the
we're getting
registration
into-
doesn't
we're
need to
getting
be
further into
expensive. It's the penalty
It
for
doesn't
not
have to-
registering.
And it wasn't, I think it was $20 when we had to register each property, which, adds up if you got multiple properties, no big deal. Price of doing business, I get it.
All right, well, we'll dig up the old one and see what it does and that, but I understand what you said. You can't legislate morality. People are gonna do what they're gonna do.
We found out, like Heidi found out, it was like, we did like a thing in the mail that says, hey, you're in trouble, you were supposed to register. Well, we didn't even know we had to. Obviously we went down right away and did it, then it's like, oh, this was a new ordinance. Well, if it was a new ordinance, how are you gonna penalize me if you haven't even informed the citizens?
I got you. All right, yes, ma'am. Your name and address for the record.
Sorry. Monica Casimir, 2791 Irondale Street, and property management has been my specialty since 1995. And I know the sticker program, it sounds like a great idea, but it's not, because what's happens, because I did inspections for banks, we put stickers on the door, and either people take them off, or it signals vandals in the area that, hey, this place is
Okay.
vacant, or this place is, you know, owned by a bank, let's go in and tear it up. I've been in so many places that missing drywall, copper, all kinds of things because of stickers. It's
Okay.
almost like when they had rental cars back in the day where I had a number identifying the rental cars, they were targets. So that may not work. Maybe what may work is an incentive program or an app that will encourage the landlords to register instead of, you know, saying, hey, you look, you have to register, get something together, and it may cost a little bit more money, but if you incentivize the registration program, you're gonna have all the things you need because the landlord is gonna actually register through the app because everybody has a phone.
Yeah.
And then you may be able to, like, if you have a problem with that property, take a picture, upload it to the landlord and say, here, this is what you have, because that's what I did for the banks. I take pictures, upload it, and they get it immediately, and they see what's going on.
Right, I don't want to open up another conversation, but you know, we always send every home our newsletter. It may not be a bad idea once a year to send to the property owners. We haven't done that in the past, we've always sent to everybody, but once a year, because we had, you know, changes in our trash orders, if we come up with some sort of, and she's right, there's no way to let the property owner know until he gets a violation from a renter. And if you've had a long-term renter, that renter sure as heck, he ain't gonna pay it, and he ain't gonna bring it up, and it's
May not
not,
even
they're
know.
never gonna know. So I think maybe we ought to think about once a year, sending out a, you know, wonderful city of Deltona. This is what the good stuff we've got going on, and then some of the changes that's happened in the last year as far as ordinance and that. If you're a property owner and you're not in town, you might want to review these things. Okay, so then we're moving along then. So Becky, you're going to try to get us the old ordinance so we can peruse that. And next item on the agenda is item number D, correction and use of stormwater utility chapter special assessment code, City of Deltona, stormwater utility fee credits. Now, some interesting things have happened. You have staff's information, but through, I want to see that. Excuse me, I had something written here, but I can't find it. You've all had a chance to review the agreement that they worked on? Okay. In going over this and looking at this and some input I've got from some other people, and I looked at my own, and I talked to Gerald, and Gerald was very helpful in getting this to me. And based on the City of Deltona's rate study and the rates as done, and I hate to be personal, but there's no other way to do it because I didn't pull up anybody else's. But I pulled up my own property, and just to give you an example, there's a difference in the assessment for commercial property on stormwater and residential. Now, vacant property, how do you say this politely? The rain gods rain on the city, and it doesn't matter if you're residential or you're commercial or whatever else. But in our ordinance, it has a different rate. And if you go to the rate that's here, and you go to an actual property, this is not my property bill, but it said proposed, you know, what do they call it? Trim notice. If you go to the trim notice on my property, and they're all these are vacant parcels, all three of them. One is vacant residential, 2.5 acres, all three of them 2.5 acres. Vacant residential property stormwater bill is $68.04 because it's 0.63 of a ERU. You all understand, because it's vacant, just grass, dirt, weeds, whatever. Go to my commercial property and $517 for one, $502 for the other one. Vacant property that has absolutely no impact.
It's not developed.
It's undeveloped vacant property, nothing on it. And according to the way we read the rules, and I don't want to get down in the weeds, but I want to propose moving forward this because of all the work that they did on it, but I also would like or to let you know that Gerald and Jane and I are going to dig in this further. I may be the exception, and this may be just an error on my property. We don't know that it's all the way through the city. If it does, we could always come back later and adjust it. But we were looking at the amount of money we collected. If these numbers, Gerald has the numbers, in our entire city on vacant commercial property, this entire city takes in $90,000 in vacant commercial stormwater. My two little pieces are over 1,000. So there's something wrong with the math somewhere. This may be an individual problem, but I wanted to let you know that I'm still willing to move forward on this. But I do want to let you know that as private John citizen, I'm going to be coming back later. If I pay this, I want to know, going to want a refund if I found out.
But that's undeveloped property, which does not affect this developed property ordinance.
Well, this is for stormwater and everything. But I just wanted to bring it forward so you wouldn't think later on, why didn't you bring it up while we were talking about it? This is a unusual situation that we'll get deeper into later. But for the purpose of tonight's meeting, it's the recommendation is just, is to follow the recommendation that came not only from Deltona Business Alliance, but staff work with them.
That was
So is there
my
any
thing was-
comments?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Mine was
Yeah, I
just-
thought you were gonna, when you started.
My only comment was staff has looked at it, the DBA has looked at it, it's in line with what other cities are doing, and I'd just say move forward with it.
Okay, Commissioner Slager? Is
yeah.
that a motion or what?
Well, we don't
Okay,
motion
go ahead.
workshops, but I think
Well, that's it. Go ahead.
Okay. I support the thing totally because of the business license. However, if you look at page 2 and 3 of the actual ordinance itself,
Yeah,
the question I have,
Which way you look at it?
the current ordinance that we
The one that
have.
we
what do we
have.
have here, Larry? And it's only just
Okay.
a housekeeping thing. If you look at number B, it says in order to qualify, you must demonstrate one of the following. Then under B, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you only need one of the following. But if you look at 1 and 2, kind of go with one of the following. But if you look at number 3, it's almost a totally different thing. I'm wondering if that shouldn't be a C, and then number 4 be a D, and number 5 be an E.
Good
It
catch.
looks like they go totally different.
Good catch, because you're right.
Oh, yeah, it
Good
should be-
catch.
you're right.
Should be C, D, E.
C, D, and E.
C, D, and E.
Because it's a housekeeping thing. I looked at that and I read
Hey,
that.
that's good.
I read that 3 or 4 times. I went, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense.
I see exactly
always
what you mean as soon as you said it. Hey, that's not bad for a school teacher. Thank you. That's what we're here
Carry
for.
on, man.
Very much.
Okay, any other
See,
comments
Larry, I
by
still like it, but I
commissioners?
wanted to change something.
Anybody else from the commission? All right, public? Larry, don't break your arm now.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit.
Okay.
On your thing, on your bill, John, it's my understanding that all commercial property, vacant commercial property is supposed to be that .63 regardless of size to 1 yard.
Well,
And
I pulled that up.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that into it. I don't have my paperwork with me, because I got a phone call when I was walking out the door to come here, and I had to go work with the
Yeah.
sheriff.
Well, we're gonna look into it deeper, Larry, because
Yeah, because that's not correct. And one thing that I was wondering about the entire time we were working on this was the validity of the database that the city's using. And I have a copy of the database, but I know that my stuff's right. But I don't know what other people's are.
that's what came up today, and we were all in the office when I showed this to them, because they have no, well, I'm sorry, Becky, Jane, Gerald, myself. And I showed them that, and it's obvious right off the bat that there's something wrong. But we're going to look into that later, but we want to move forward with this tonight and then look at vacant land too and the impact.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Has this proposed ordinance been run by Burton and Associates to see what the potential impact will be? And that who did the fee schedule before?
Yeah, because that you'd have to.
No, it wasn't Tetra Tech, it was Burton and
If you
Associates.
had speaking of vacant,
Just
Proposal.
the proposed changes to the ordinance.
no, because there's no way to quantify it. We don't know
Who's gonna ask
in the
for it?
community is
Exemption.
going to either make an application for a credit or sign an affidavit for a credit.
Okay, so then Burton needs to review the ordinance and give us the potential worst-case scenario.
I don't know how he would do that.
We have,
What would be the reason?
Well,
for
because
that?
we have set a budget and things based upon a certain known ordinance. Now we are changing that ordinance. The result that Burton and Associates arrived at their original stormwater fees that we're charging was based upon a different set of rules.
Right.
We're changing the rules of the game now.
Well, actually, if you want to look at a gross number, Commissioner or Vice Mayor, stormwater other, which is everything other than residential, improved properties in 2016 were forecast to generate $340,735. So if you say every one of those owners is going to get a credit, they're not all going to get a landlocked credit, and they're not all going to get a non-landlocked. The most you could have an impact on is probably the, 45% or 50%. That would be the highest credit that they could have. So 45% of 340,000, you're talking less than $200,000 on an annual basis.
Well, 200,000.
Yeah.
That's a
which
nice
means
size
that
number.
If they all do that, okay, then the city would have to look at, in the report of 2015, we'd have to look at which projects do we defer. Now keep in mind, the project list is extensive. It goes over 8 years. And, you know, it would mean that you end up deferring some of the smaller
You just push one
projects.
back.
You know, the lower priority ones, I'll say. Because keep in mind.
Or it means that the following year, when we set the stormwater assessment fee,
Exactly.
we raise it so that we can meet the.
Right.
and we had discussed this before, that was what we'd have to do, is
Well,
look
I
at it,
think-
at the effect later down the road, but
I
it was a
think
fair and
based-
equitable thing to do.
Based on this here tonight, though, if we pass this, and before we bring Burton in, we'll see the effects this is going to have, because this silly little personal thing, which I felt that you all ought to know about before I bring it up, that could have, even at the worst, even if every one of us is being charged over, it's only $90,000, the entire amount of money we collect. So there's something wrong in this number, and it may be that others aren't being charged enough, and I'm paying, well, Gerald said, you're paying your fair share easy. If, you know, if those two little pieces compared to, you know, but anyway, I don't think we should
I would be more comfortable
have an idea.
moving this forward with Burton and Associates sending us a letter saying that the impact is negligible or whatever. I think it needs to go to them to be validated.
And I was just going to say, they have spent the money on St. John's River water permits, and that's one of the main reasons they get disapproved, is if they have a permit, and then if they have a sort. And it is the fair and equitable thing to do, not even look at, okay, it's going to cost us this. We know it's going to cost something down the road. We have to look at that, and we will have to adjust, might have to adjust the stormwater or put off projects, but this is the right thing to do for the businesses that invested in the community and are doing their own stormwater runoff. I mean, they did the right thing.
Did you have something you wanted?
I did, just to clarify or add on to what Gerald said, you have the $340,000 that's going to be generated from other improved property. Of that, other includes commercial, industrial, institutional, and utilities, and I don't have the breakdown. I just started working on that this afternoon. So worst case scenario, if every other commercial was exempted at 40%, just say blended average, it's $136,000 loss.
Yeah.
The other question that I had is, if we give this exemption, is there a process for renewal? Because, well, now wait a second. I don't want to name a particular piece of property, but it's on Providence Boulevard that has it's a commercial business. It has a stormwater system. It's exfiltration.
It's failed.
And it's been failed for years. Now, why should that individual get a stormwater credit when that water runs out onto Providence Boulevard and flows into the city system.
Okay, here's,
Wait a minute, I
You're
don't
right.
need everybody answering but the manager.
No, but he's right, and I know the property he's talking about. If they were to apply for the exemption, they would not get it at all.
Yeah, 'cause everybody's gotta apply.
There's
It's got to
nobody
be
that's,
maintained.
nobody that works
Okay,
in
wait
this
a
building.
minute, I understand that. That's saying if they applied. Once they have applied,
Right.
and they've gotten the exemption, not that particular one.
Oh, another one?
Once they apply, and they apply from day one. It's a new business, it goes in, they apply for the exemption, and then 5 years from now, they're getting the exemption and the system has failed. Are they going to continue to get the exemption?
No.
Yeah.
It's spelled out in here, they don't.
No,
Yeah.
they do not continue to
Yes,
get
they
it.
do.
If there's a substantial failure in the system, they lose the exemption.
If there's a failure, right, that says in here,
That's right.
but he's asking, do they have to renew every year? No. The
No.
qualification
No.
for utility fee credit is
But,
established.
but we as a city would obviously know if that system failed because it would impact our system. They would not get the credit.
I read the ordinance.
Okay, well,
I'm asking,
Jane, you want to answer?
there's
that?
obviously confusion because we've got one commissioner saying yes and others saying no. What's the process for identifying that and removing the exemption? Becky?
Now it can be
It
removed.
says, okay, if in fact they are causing flooding, which is what happens when your system fails, it's right at the top of the second to last page. It says no less than 90 days prior to the revocation of the utility fee credit, the property owner will be notified of corrective actions needed by certified mail and shall be given 60 days to perform the required corrective action. And then they notify us that the corrective action is being taken care of, and then we
Which would make them have to get a
go
permit.
out and we check it. If they haven't corrected it, we take away their, they can appeal it, and they can keep it while it's on appeal. But basically, if they're, because we were told that sometimes these things do fail. If we come across the knowledge that it's failed, then we take away their credit.
I guess that's the point of my question is, how do we come across the knowledge? How do we find that the system has failed? You have people actively,
Well, they're gonna call it, go do something.
we have people actively.
Are you asking the
I'm asking,
manager
no,
or
I'm asking
Gerald?
Gerald.
No, we do not actively inspect all the stormwater systems in the city.
It would be, obviously. We tried years ago to add to, in the property that we're thinking about, it's right down here. We tried years ago to go down there and demand that they fix that. Because, you know, you can float a car in there
Yeah.
when it's raining really bad. And it does, well, you can. I mean, it actually fills up to where a car could lose traction in there and float. There were 3 property owners, if I remember correctly, on that plaza. There's 3 separate units. One of the gentlemen was well-known, passed away, and the other, I don't know if somebody bought it. But anyway, they never could get the 3 of them to agree. The city had worked out a plan where we were gonna move their stormwater to that corner lot and make that a retention area for the thing. We couldn't get all 3 of them to agree to chip in the money to do it. Right now, I would say, Dale doesn't need a lot of other work, but that is a very dangerous location when it rains because people try to come off the road, they hit that, they slide, or they slam on their brakes coming down Providence when they see that it's flooded and they don't want to go in there. But we could never find where we could justify going in there and making them tear it up and fix it. So to answer your question, they don't inspect it or go out there, but they couldn't get their, they wouldn't get their exemption if they had an obvious failure in their system. And that system's impacting us, but we can't, because that was way before we were a city. There's no mechanism for us to go back to and make them do
If I
it.
remember correctly, we took them into court and they
Yep.
were ordered to pump that system out at one point. Of course, it just filled right back
But yeah,
up.
they pumped it out and cleaned it. They said it was a plugged drain was causing it, which it's not. It's floods every time it rains. But I didn't want to get into all that. But yeah, we fought for a year with them down there, and with the 3 property owners, it was a mess. So, okay?
I just have
Yes, ma'am.
just a clarification. So are we gonna get a worst case scenario number before this comes before us, and then it's gonna go to
Yes.
Burton?
No, you just got it. He just
estimated.
gave you one.
already just estimated what the worst case scenario would be.
But I mean, but then how
136.
can we get some sort of a calculation on how that would impact, because we just did a big stormwater hike last year.
We would pull a project out. We'd have to delay a project, and then next year when we set the rate, we'd either have to raise it because the project's that important, or we would just,
Well, if you're gonna
Delay an
go
act.
ahead, because that credit is every year, or is it a one-time thing?
It's every
It's
year.
every year, so you're gonna take that hit every single year.
Yeah.
depending on how many people apply.
That's why I want something from Burton
Yeah,
and
I mean, you're gonna-
Associates
so
that
what you're
tells
gonna
us what
have
the
to do
impact
is
is
you
gonna
either
be.
keep kicking projects down the road and never catch up, or you do a stormwater increase. Because if it's a
Yes.
credit every single year, you can't just say, well, then next year if we keep it, we're gonna kick another project down the road. There has to be some plan in place. I agree with Vice
If
Mayor, there
you-
has to be a
if you-
plan in place.
If
Either-
your perception, Commissioner, is to continue at the level of billing we are, the taxpayer out there feels like, I don't have a stormwater issue in my neighborhood right now. The city's done a marvelous job the last 20 years. So I don't know that we're causing any impact to anybody. I mean, there was a time here, if you can remember back, when we had people flood and we had serious problems. We've gone through a drought spurt. We've done an awful lot of
You know
building.
what?
Our staff's done great.
I disagree. Last year, was it last year, a year and a half ago, you were in the news for the flooding that went
Flooding
on,
at
so I'm just
Wheeling.
saying, that
That was a
was.
pump issue, that
one
wasn't
spot, yeah.
flooding. They took
Yeah, but
care of it
isn't-
like that.
I don't know, I just feel like
It
you
was flash
can't make a
flood.
decision like this without knowing a long-term impact. I'm not against it, but, you know, you're gonna go ahead and do that. I would really just like to see an impact
Okay.
and see.
Larry, I can't until I'm done, and I'm almost done. Go ahead.
Okay, we've given the worst case of 137,000.
Yeah,
We have
that's-
discussed this before, that yes, it may impact either projects for the stormwater rate, and we've realized that it's the fair and equitable thing to do. Whether we know it's gonna cost 137 or 250,000, it's the right thing to do.
And I think the only thing Burton could do, or anyone else, not just Burton, I don't want to blame them,
Guesstimate anyway.
they would only guess based on past
Just a guess.
practice, and we don't have that. We're just, it's new, so we don't have anything for them to base a thing on. We should track it ourselves for the first year, and then if need be, we'd have to raise the rate if we want to continue billing or withdraw some billing.
Burton and
Keep in mind,
Associates.
$136,000 is less than 4% of your total revenue to stormwater utility.
That's really not much at all.
Mayor, can I also say, we already allow a credit,
Yeah.
already. So
I
the
know.
only thing we did with this ordinance is we increased it by 5%.
Okay.
The
It's
second
not
thing
that big a
is
deal.
that we allow, for some reason, if you could not find your permit, that you would allow, to have an affidavit to say that you
Right.
actually did the mitigation. So this isn't starting from scratch. I mean, we
Right.
already have
Already
an
on the
ordinance.
books.
That's what I'm trying to say. And the only other thing we did was with new construction, rather than applying for the credit, they would get it automatically if they showed us during the permitting process that they did their appropriate mitigation. So I'm
Okay.
saying is, the incremental difference isn't really that great.
Okay.
All right, so we're okay with moving forward then? All right, now I'm coming to it, I'm coming to it. Okay, so the commission's done. Larry, you're getting nervous over there, go ahead.
Okay. Jane just said basically a lot of what I wanted to say.
Well
These
then,
credits were
okay,
available.
then you can be quiet. No, go ahead.
I did a good thing for.
You did.
Today. We got the license plate number, somebody's going to jail tonight. These credits were always on the book, but we couldn't get them. Now we've got
A system.
a system so I can get it. You know, I didn't get it last year. Mine alone is $1,700 a year, so you look, my credit. And I've been paying that in all these years, not even knowing credit was available. My systems work. I've got ponds that I have to mow. That's all I have to do. They're not an infiltration system. We do know where the bad ones are in Deltona. Gerald pointed some out to me. I've seen some of them myself just drive around. And when you drive around, you'll see a flooded parking lot the next day. The thing you've got going on in Providence, you know, I'd be freaking out if I owned that property because I'm of the belief that the city can come and condemn my property because it's not safe there. And I'd be getting that thing fixed real fast by now.
It flooded actually in one of the stores one time. The water got that high that it actually went in. But anyway, that's another
The
story.
dog's not working, but I ran the numbers myself, and I came up to 124,000, but I think we have very little landlocked. I haven't gotten that database yet, I haven't asked it, but I will. But, you know, I came up at about 3% of the entire it's about $4 million budget that we got for total storm.
Okay. All right.
So, you know, we'll just have to delay some projects, but like everybody says, it's the right thing to do.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the stormwater issue? Okay, Ty.
What are you doing?
All right, we'll move along.
I'm getting nice.
Novik was going to sleep.
In the dark.
All right, move forward with the stormwater ordinance. Last item on the agenda is a request regarding the lobbyist. Contract with a different company or possible RFP for a lobbyist for this year. Ms. Shang, you brought this up. What's your goal?
I just wanted direction from the commission. I have a letter from Greg Robinson. As you all know, Capital Insight was purchased by Greg Robinson, so there is a change in regards to our lobbyists. Also, Greg Robinson also serves Volusia County and Orlando, and I just wanted to make that happen.
Well, our lobbyist is going to stay the same. They're just a member of a bigger firm, right?
Right.
It's the same lobbyist guy, but
Right.
they're just part of a different firm. Yeah, I don't see any reason to change anything.
My only question is,
Unless we're gonna-
when the lobbyist firm was purchased, did the contract automatically roll over to them? So we had to renew this, and we said as a commission, anything over 25,000 would go out for bid. I like Kirk Pecker, I like Dean Cannon, he knows what he's doing in Tallahassee, but he serves Volusia County, which is right here. He serves Orlando, that firm now. That firm, not Capital, they're not Capital.
What's that got to do with the price of meetings?
It's a new contract. It's not a rollover. We don't get to keep what we have, so we're not advertising this out and putting out an RFP and letting others bid on a $50,000 contract. And that's not right. It's not the same contract.
I don't problem. Don't argue. What do you
It's
got
not the
want?
same
You brought it up.
contract. It needs to be put out on an
What's the
RFP.
wish?
Well,
Well, Nancy wants to talk next.
We got 50,000 in the bank, so we
my recommendation was going to RFP, because the question I had, I know that it's just a merger and that kind of thing, but when you looked at Greg Robertson, they never even applied for the original one.
Right.
okay. Only
And I
Gray
have a hard
Robinson.
time-
Only Gray Robinson could answer that, so there's no sense of speculating.
But they clearly did not respond to the RFP originally.
They may have. There might be any kind of.
And to
reason.
automatically give it to them now, I just have a little hard time.
Well, we're not giving it to them.
Yeah, well, I know.
Oh, I understand.
It's a merger.
All right, Heidi.
No, can you hang on a minute, because I'm trying to remember what I was gonna ask. I mean, I remember, but I can't remember the report. So, is anybody else?
Yeah,
No.
I'll go next.
Let him go. No,
At least she admits it, God bless her. Go ahead.
No, I have a great deal of concern about being represented now by this firm. We are in direct competition on many issues with Orlando when it comes to the sports. We have a study going on right now for a consultant to look at different venues and properties in the city that may become our niche. Anything with the word soccer that's attached to it, those dollars are going to be lobbied for heavily by Orlando. I have a great deal of difficulty thinking they're going to work just as hard for us as they're going to work for Orlando or they're going to work for Volusia County. So I want to go out to bid, yeah.
Okay, Heidi.
Yes, I'm back now.
You had a slight blonde.
No, I couldn't.
She was in conversation with the mother planet.
Anyway, I just needed Anita's glasses. So I've kind of been thinking this out, and just being at the League of Cities conference and talking about lobbying and stuff. I mean, the reality is, for a city this size, to even pay $50,000 to a firm that's representing a lot of other larger entities that are paying them more, you have to really see, are we going to be able to get that attention? Are we going to be able to get that? On the other side of the coin, to go ahead and put it out to bid at this late date, I mean, you really got to start rolling in Tallahassee in November. So, I mean, there are other ways, and maybe for the manager to look at it, there's also like an invitation for proposal that you can do for a session fee. And you can maybe look at hiring a smaller lobby company for just a set session fee for this session, which is considerably less than the $50,000, and maybe look at something like that. But Jane would have to look into to see what's out there, and you could have a shorter time frame instead of lobbying, going out for I don't know, $50,000 is great, but
So no for Greg.
Wait a minute, let's not say things like that.
I just think that the
Let her
manager could
finish.
explore along with Becky, there are some other options that you can explore. And a session fee at this point might not be a bad way to look at it and do something on a shorter term with somebody that's a little more intimate, or propose that to Gray Robinson, maybe they can assign us something. I don't know. I just feel like we're not gonna get our bang for our buck for that small
Okay.
amount of money that we're putting in there. That's just what I feel.
And I do agree with you. If the majority commission wants to do something, we don't want to say, we don't like this one because he did this one, this one, we'll work harder for this one. That's the last thing we want to
No, we
send
just wanna
out.
say,
No,
oh,
wait a minute.
it's the right thing to do.
Let me just say something and finish, okay? When they go to Tallahassee, those are the same people that can hurt you as much as help you, whether you're paying for them or not. So we want to do this in the right way, and Heidi's got the best suggestion. You could do a session thing where you hire someone to go up there and push. Our problem is, and I think one of the problems is, there'd have been no question had we got $2 million last year, we wouldn't even been here. We have to do something about giving them more direction on what we want. And Heidi is right. We could hire somebody on an as-needed basis for a project, for whatever, leave the $50,000 in the budget, and let the manager look at other options for funding that. And Gray Robinson could bid on it like everybody else, but we've changed our focus, is a better way of putting it, rather than getting rid of one, hiring somebody else. We changed our focus. What we'd like to do is hire somebody, and we put that out for bid, a different program, and it will not come up to
At least
50.
you can see what you get.
Exactly.
And
we can ask for what we want, not just.
Still go.
So you're really looking for a
Right,
bid.
and we don't want to arbitrarily.
Like, it's an invitation for proposal, it's like a small mini bid type thing, right? Is that? invitation
Yes,
for
that can be done.
Just for session, but
Session
long
fee.
term, I want a firm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah,
The
for
long term,
next
I'd
year,
rather
but
go
we're on this year's budget, just so we can move along.
And
I mean, it's just
and just so you know,
another-
even if they would've got $2 million, it's a new contract, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
No matter what.
I
No matter what they
agree.
would've got us, but they did get us money.
I don't want the perception is because of the name of an outfit, we don't want nothing to do with it, because
And I
they're
agree
very
with you on that.
well-respected
They're a good
people
firm.
in this
Yes, they
community,
are.
well-respected firm, and that's not the issue. The issue is, the issue is change our perception of what we expect from a lobbyist, because we did not give them, the taxpayers have a right to get something for their money, and we didn't give them a lot to work for, honest.
Well,
That
and-
meeting with FDOT, they set that up. The procedure for getting that money to the county and then
And
to
they
us for
can
the
do
highway
those
improvements,
things.
they set that up. And all David had to do was show up and say, sounds good. They organized that whole meeting and that whole procedure.
I understand,
But-
but if we give
And
them
the money
things to
for
do,
the sewer plant.
and we're back, that was the year before.
But you know what, when I was up there 2
Same
years
firm.
ago, when you're going up there and Dean Cannon has Buddy Dyer and he's taking him around, and I ran into them in the halls. You know, he's got Buddy and he's going around trying to, exactly what you said, whoever said that was the soccer money, you did, Vice
I did.
Mayor.
He's a
You know,
former
that's
Speaker of the
exactly what
House.
they were lobbying for, was all that cut of the sports money. So, I mean, in that case.
That's right.
Unless we have something that, that you have some in with, people that are in appropriations and stuff, we can't compete with that in that particular
He's the
thing.
former speaker, so they're all gonna grab him, and okay, okay, you understand that what we're doing is we'll keep the money in the budget for the budget's sake, and then let's look at possibly sending a letter out, like an RF. I guess it'd be just a proposal out and see if they're interested in.
Whatever.
We're interested in just hiring somebody just for the session, and attaches a list of things that we want them to try to shepherd. Of course, staff's gonna have to put together a list, because they're gonna wanna know what, I'm sorry.
I was clearing my throat, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, no, I thought you
She
wanted,
did not want to talk.
I thought you were trying to interrupt me to say something.
You got 2 minutes, hurry up.
Oh, tonight you want to go on time?
I'm just saying.
But you got something-
In
I
2
was,
minutes.
I'm watching that, that's what I'm doing.
Tick tock.
So I'm
Talk
gonna-
to the
okay.
public.
Yeah, I am, but, so we're clear on that then, Jane? All right, closing comments by anybody? Yes,
Brandon
ma'am?
White, 2926 Chalmers Street. I'm actually glad to hear everybody was against just going ahead and signing this. But you talked about needing to do one in the future with a firm. Can I just recommend that we get somebody who can write a contract? Because if this is a contract, this is the most poorly written contract I've ever read in my life.
Makes a lot of friends saying stuff like
It doesn't have a term
that.
limit,
Okay.
it doesn't have the breakdown of what's expected.
Is that their contract?
This is
That's just their letter.
this is the-
Yeah.
That's their letter, that's the letter they sent to us.
contract.
Yeah.
Well, they use the word contract here, but here it says it's just an agreement, and really this is neither. This is a waste of space and paper. This is the worst written, I review contracts constantly, this is the worst written thing I've ever seen in my life.
Okay,
So I think you need to take a real close review at how the contract's gonna be worded for the future contract. And for these sessions that you wanna do, make sure it includes the important pieces that are missing out of this one.
okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, we are adjourned.
I'm impressed. 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 I'm impressed.